Team 1. My name is Andrew Chua. I'm the project manager.
I'm Michael Conklin, the data consultant.
I'm Adam Green. I'm database administrator.
And I'm Sharon Liu. I am the administrative assistant.
And our team name is Here for Beer.
For our project, we had the opportunity to work with the Children's Discovery Museum that's located in downtown San Jose, California. Our project sponsor is named Barrett Adden. She has this program called BioSITE that engages students in water quality testing and sampling around the local rivers and creeks.
And as before mentioned, Barrett Adden is in charge of a program called BioSITE at the Children's Discovery Museum. And with that comes a lot of data from water quality testing. And recently, she had an inquiry put in by the city of San Jose for information or data from those water quality testing on certain rivers and creeks. And she had no easy way of sorting that information or retrieving that information for them in a timely manner.
So after our first meeting with Barrett Adden, the team came together to brainstorm some ideas to potential resolution to our issues. First, we needed a centralized database to house all the water sample data. We also needed a convenient way to query the database based on user criteria. This would add value to the BioSITE so that they can meet the needs of clients in a timely manner. For the scope, we needed to deliver a centralized database with organized data so that our sponsor is able to look for the data that she is looking for.
So we were given basically the whole semester to do this project. It initially began on January 26th with our first meeting with the project sponsor. And it formally came to a close on April 27th and ended with our final meeting with the project sponsor. This time period totaled up to an amount of 13 weeks.
Since money was taken out of the project, we use hours as our measure of cost. We originally accounted for 900 hours for the project, and right now we're at 909, which does put us over budget. We found that the majority of our hours went to manual data entry, which did take us a little bit longer than expected. After receiving the data from Rick Berg, their technical representative, we quickly found that the data entered within each sheet was often misformatted and inconsistent. The data was also very ambiguous and in many cases incorrectly inputted. We found this to be the key measure that was contributing to their problem.
So after meeting with our group, our recommendations to BioSITE, Rick Berg, and Barrett Adden were to create an Excel spreadsheet that is uniform and it can be easily used to input data. And we also needed a program to be able to query that information that can actually be utilized to fulfill BioSITE's clientele needs. And we came up with Microsoft Access because it is a user-friendly solution and you can have queries with multiple parameters, as well as it is easy to import data from Excel.
So our next step is to analyze the raw data files received from our sponsor and pull out all of the key attributes. With those key attributes, we are able to create the uniform table in Microsoft Excel. And then we manually import all of the data from the raw sheets into this uniformly table we created. And our worksheet was able to filter out a lot of the unnecessary data they had previously and offer a more clean and consistent and easy to read interface. And then after we finalized the Excel worksheet and we imported all of the raw data into it, it was time to import that worksheet into Microsoft Access. And once we got all the data in one table in Microsoft Access, we created the preset queries that were there for any user to modify to better fit their data retrieval needs. After we have created all of the queries that set a good foundation, it was time to test those queries and fix any bugs that might have occurred. These tests consisted of running the queries with different search criteria and different combinations, such as certain dates, certain schools at a certain time, at a certain location, and whatnot. And we just try to test as many combinations as time allowed, and then check the data that was presented for accuracy to make sure that everything works smoothly and efficiently.
So for delivery of this project, we were able to meet with our sponsor on April 27th. During this meeting that we demonstrated to our sponsor the functionality of our database and to give them a live view of how the queries work in Access. Not only that, after our sponsor was happy and content with no further questions, we were able to transfer the database to a USB thumb drive given by Rick Berg. We also delivered the Access instructions for further users. Lastly, all the project stakeholders signed off on the project acceptance form to signify a close to this project.
Okay, just to show you a quick example for our project, what we did for BioSITE program at the Children's Discovery Museum, we created a Excel spreadsheet of all the data that they had because they had a lot of different formats and a lot of messy data that was not in any clear format and it wasn't organized at all. So we put it all into a very uniform format so that way it's easier for them to use and streamline the whole process. And so in the Excel spreadsheet we also put in some basic error checking for just in case for high school students that they send this Excel spreadsheet to only inputs valid data. So for instance, in turbidity field, you can only have multiples of 5s in the actual test. And so if I, for instance, put in a 6 and hit enter, you'll get this error message saying you can only enter multiples of 5. And we also have that error checking in a few other fields such as pH. And from this Excel spreadsheet, we created an Access database. And when you open it up, it'll come up into here. And if they want to look at the actual data of the database, they just need to double click on the water sample data table over there, and it'll all be here. And we also created some pre-made queries for them, so that way they don't have to create all of them from scratch. And it makes it streamlined and a little bit easier for them. So all that they need to do is just double click on it, and it'll display the information that they're most commonly are looking for. And this is just one example of dissolved oxygen. So they didn't have very much experience with Access, and so we created these how-to guides about how to use Access in general, and we flashed this so that way you have a bunch of step-by-step guides on how to properly use Access, how to copy and paste all the data from Excel spreadsheets, and how to edit the data, etc. And we also created a how-to guide on how to create queries, because if we inform them on how to do or create queries in the future, it'll make it easier for them as well as anybody else that they decide to want to have access to it. And essentially this is their long-term study guide, if you will, on how to use Access.